That should be broadcasting now. And I'm going to apologize a little bit. This is a bit of an experiment. I'm experimenting with time slots. I'm experimenting with my equipment. I'm experimenting with my internet connection. Because my house connection is not quite up to the task of doing the live streams while I'm actually using the internet for other things. So I've been having to do the live streams while the rest of the family is otherwise predisposed, so I'm not interfering with their use of the internet, which is honestly a bit more important than what I'm using it for. Because this does not pay the bills. And just for shits and grins, I'm going to try. I'm also experimenting with the equipment, so I got my phone instead of my tablet going on up there. And that's going to make it a bit more difficult to read comments, so I'm not sure if that's going to work too well. But I might be able to see comments on this tablet. Okay. So a bit of back and forth. At least I'm seeing the viewer count on this one. Let's see if I can't make it also show me comments. And here's a good application. Let's try this. Whoa, let's go. Come on. Let's see if that comes up. Just trying to make it so I can see the chat. Let's go, let's go. That worked, great. So this setup does seem to be working well enough for me. Groovy. Let's get, clamp this down so it doesn't fall off when I'm doing more vigorous working. And let's see about getting some power in there. I've got, that should work. Got an extension cord, a multi-pry extension cord running down there, so I'll just drop this down, duck under it, and plug it in. That's the plan anyway. There we go. All right, on to the woodworking. When I left off, I was doing some dados, and that seems like a good place to continue on. Dados are miniature buns. That was a bad idea. All right, so I'm really going to have to figure this out. So this is B, on board B, and it's 3. I'm still on 2, so we will take B2, which is that guy right there, and is this my true face? Yes, it is. Or true edge, I guess. You know what, I'm going to go ahead and put this down with holdfast. I think that's probably the best option I've got right now. So hold fast here. That's the big hold fast. And get the little hold fast in there too. And this should keep it quite steady. You know what, that's not going to work because I need to get my screw there. Let's go a bit this direction. That'll do us just fine. Knife in the marking line, and let's go ahead and make this guy a bit deeper. Now we take B2, make sure the text is up because that's how we're going to orient these. And hold it right there. Second square, over on the other side, slide it over, pinch them in between. And that's our other line. And this way we can put the bevel towards the waist. And we're keeping everything nice and straight. Whew. Hello, Shankill. How are we looking? Is it a viable stream? I would hope not, because I'm not on it. Is it showing up okay? Good picture? Not buffering too much? Or I think that's what I'm really interested in. And you know what? I can... that might actually work. So there's a good reason to have a combination square after all. Just trying to figure out how I was going to make this mark, and I kept thinking I was going to have to take the board off the holdfast and move it somewhere where I could get my tri-square in. But I don't need to do that. This combination square is adjustable. Who'd have thunk it? Knife in the line, square to the knife. And these lines don't need to be too terribly deep because I'm not doing a knife wall. And these lines probably don't even need to exist at all. But I'm going to put them in there just in case. I did not do that correctly. I need to get a smaller square, maybe like one of those miniatures, like 6-inch combination squares. That's on the wish list, I think. Maybe one of those really nice, expensive Starrett squares. I don't know if they're actually worthwhile, but they seem nice and they come highly recommended. Popular wisdom is if you get a Starrett, it's almost 100% going to be completely square, and you can trust it, even if you get one that's like 100 years old. I'm pretty sure that's an exaggeration, but that's what folks say, that you can always trust a Starrett. I'd probably be more inclined to get a new one instead of a used one, but we'll see someday. And just like the last one, we do a bit of a cross cut here. Get down to our lines. I think that's about 1/4 inch is how far I'm cutting. Where did I put my mirror? Over there, because it was in the way. So now we just take off some of these corners. I'm going to do that with just a little tap here. Halfway, and half it again. Halfway from the top down to the gauge line anyway. And do another half. And really just wanting to watch how the grain goes here. Make sure we're not in danger of splitting anything. Right, so halfway, half it again, and I can actually rest this on the bench a little bit. Bevel down, just to keep everything cutting upwards. Grain suddenly starts changing on us, that'll give us room to adjust. And I think that's about as far as I want to go. Now for this one, we're doing bevel up, we're going at a very good side angle. And this is just giving us enough room to work in here so we can get a bit more aggressive with the remainder. Don't take too aggressive of passes, because you don't need to. It cuts better when you take some shallower passes. And I actually think I'm gonna, 1/2-inch chisel is not doing it for me at the moment. If I got a 3/8, let's try 3/8. It's just a little bit too tight in there, and I'm worried about damaging the side walls. Just slowly work down to our marking lines, to our gauge lines. I'm not worried about tear out just yet because I've got that slope on the outside. I'll start worrying about it soon because I'm getting close. Let's see how we're looking at. All right. All right, now I think we can move on to the router plane. I'm just really light passes. With the router plane, since it doesn't have the support of a sole, you want to take as light of passes as you can in order to keep the surface as smooth as possible. Otherwise, you can really tear things apart. Always work from the outside going in. So at the end of those dados, you've got unsupported fibers, and you can just blow it out, and it won't be pretty at all. Now, just to double check, I've got text on my screen. Is anybody else seeing that, or is it just me? I only want it to be me showing all the comments, because I got them just ridiculously huge so I can read it. So if you can tell me in the comments if you can see the comments, that would be much appreciated. Or, of course, anything else you might want to comment on. Tell me what a horrible woodworker I am. I'm getting there. I'm getting a lot better. Okay, great. Thank you, Shenko. That's how I tried to set it up. I just, you can never tell with these things. And it's hard to do a lot of test runs because, you know, the only real way to test these things is to actually go live with it, I think. The only way you can tell for sure, that is. I'm slowly getting used to this streaming thing. I suppose like anything else, it's a skill. You gotta develop it, you gotta practice it. My first attempts at dovetails were absolutely horrendous. But now I think they're almost tolerable. Next I'll probably try to work on the, or sometime soon, I'm going to try to do half-blind dovetails. Get some drawers made or something like that. I think that'd be a fun exercise. And that's probably not a great chisel for it. Get one of my nice chisels. Banging on the hold fast because apparently I don't like my nice chisels enough to take care of them properly. I may just end up being too clumsy for proper woodworking, but I don't know. It's still fun. All right, let's test the fit. So we are on B2. How do we fit? How do we fit? I measure, and it's never enough. Okay, so I need to take off some from this side. To try and take some off of this side. It is, of course, better to be too loose or too tight than too loose. So I can take material away, I can shave off a little bit here and there. Adding wood back on, not so easy. That's close. You only need to take off, say, maybe a couple thousandths of an inch. But that couple thousandths is what's preventing it from fitting, so it doesn't seem like a lot, but it does make a big difference. How we looking? Okay, it's fitting the top. I just need to make it more vertical. So where is it? Not square. It's not square right there. And these will make for some nice little shelves, I think. Was it just somewhere in the middle? Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that's going to do the trick for us. Okay, so that's shelf number 2 knocked out. Let's move on to shelf number 3. I've got to move this holdfast out of the way. And let's, how about we just move the whole board down to the right. That'll do it for us. I think that should work. Give us enough room. Alright, so I've got board number 3 up on the list, and we're still on B, so this is 3B. Marking knife in the line. So I've already measured all these dados, so I'm just working to the lines that I measured. Now I want the dados to be even across both sides, so that's why I marked them together at the same time. Just had the boards right next to each other. Let's go ahead and deepen this while I've got the square on it. before I get too far in that direction, let's get this guy a bit better situated. That was a lovely noise. B. I want to make sure that I'm fitting the right piece of wood into the right joint. No matter how uniform I think I've made these, dang it, slipped. There's got to be a better way of doing this. I just wish I knew what it was. But I want to keep the bevel of the knife pointed towards the waist of the joint. So that's the middle of the dado that I'm cutting out. So that way it doesn't mark the outside and make it, I want to have nice crisp lines. And the only way I can think of to do that is to have the square up here and the knife up against the square, make that nice crisp line, and then put the wood there. Now, you might think that I could just mark the wood, but that would have the bevel out, and that would mar the wood. And we don't want that. We don't want to mar the wood. So, gotta hold this in place. And yeah, see, if I try and hold it like that, it moves. And I can feel it move. You might not be able to see it, but I can certainly feel it move. Maybe if I get the square repositioned a little bit, that might help things along. Ooh. That hold fast is going to give me trouble, I just know it. If I hold it down there, that seems to be a bit more stable. Nope, nope, it's not. Dang it. I wonder if I could maybe clamp this square in place. Seems to be kind of a hillbilly way of doing things. But you know what they say, if it's stupid and it works, then it ain't stupid, right? Okay, well, that's the important part, I think. I only need to get it precisely square up at that point. And now if I can bring this guy in, just pinch them up together. Yeah, that's right. Or at least it's the correct thickness. I know that's not, I know there's a better way. Just wish I knew what it was. Okay. I think I got that line just deep enough. That should suit us just fine. What else am I doing? Okay, I need to mark my verticals. And I only need to go about 1/4 of an inch, so that won't give me too much trouble. Marks on that side I'm not too worried about. No one will see those when they're covered up with the backing. And that's just to keep me aligned vertically when I'm sawing it, to prevent me from sawing too far. Or, well, actually, those lines, the vertical lines aren't too terribly critical, but they may help with tear out on the backside. It never hurts to completely mark out your joints with a knife. Pencils, on the other hand, well, you have to sand out your pencil marks. And once again, just using the router plane as a marking gauge because, you know what, it's set to the proper depth anyway. So why waste time setting a marking gauge to the depth we already got the router plane set to? All right, deepen these knife walls a little bit. Give our saw something to ride in. Just a small little wedge taken out of there. So that way our saw slides nicely in this groove and it knows exactly where to go and we don't have to worry about it skipping. Where'd my mirror go? I don't think I'm going to need this plane out for a while, so I can put that down underneath. I'm going to put these back here. I temporarily don't need those, so. That's not the saw I wanted. It's not a bad saw, but this one gives me a little bit better control, I think. Gets me closer to the work because I don't have as much saw plate surface. This is rip cut though. The teeth are filed for a rip cut rather than a cross cut, so it's not necessarily ideal. But I don't have a cross cut saw this size. And I don't think it makes sense to have one either in the grand scheme of things. You know, if I wanted to have a billion saws, sure. But at $50 a pop, you know, you get the ones you need, and you don't get the ones you don't need. I think ½ inch should do just fine. The last dado seemed to be a bit too narrow, which might be because I undercut it with the saw. And I did have to adjust it quite a bit, so that's probably telling as to how I marked it. Where is my chromium oxide? Metal powder encased in wax. You are what makes my blades sharp. Try and keep these as polished as possible so I don't have to go down to the diamond plates as much. Sharpen often, sharpen less severely. Feeling for a burr on the back of it. Just pushing the metal over the top on this bevel, so over the top, until I can feel it kind of round over on the other side. Once I feel that, a couple passes on the back side, make sure the burr's gone, and we are all set to go. The only problem is you have to resist the urge to shave with your arms with it. You do that the first couple of times because you can, and you want to show how awesome your sharpening skills are. But if you do that all the time, then you just don't have hair on your arms. Because you're going to end up sharpening a lot faster than your hair grows back. What was that movie? I think it had Robert De Niro in it. Guy was like a huge baseball fan and sold knives. I know I've got a broom in here somewhere. Broom, broom. Where's my broom? There we go. Getting tired of walking on these shavings. Those were from the rabbeting plane earlier today. Cutting these rabbets right here. Rabbeting planes are extremely useful and lovely little devices. I do highly recommend them. Tilt it so we avoid damaging the good face. Only want to take out the waist and the middle. Nice little shavings we're making here though. Cross grain shavings. Lets us know our chisel is properly sharp. You can do a lot with a less sharp chisel. But oh, that polished edge just makes it cut like butter. Just so long as you don't get too aggressive with it, like I'm just doing right there. Get my bevel back, my chamfer back here. And on this side too. You kind of want to make like a pyramid shape in the middle. At least that's what I found seems to be the safest way, the safest approach. Just make a slope on every side until you got a point in the middle, and then you take down the point in the middle. And now I'm getting close to depth on this side, so just want to be careful that I don't blow it out by cutting through unsupported fibers. I may have gone too deep there. It's not ideal, but it's It's not terrible if you go too deep on the middle of a dado because it's going to be covered. No one's going to see it, and it's not all that important structurally. But I may not have gone too deep. Still might be okay. I've got a lot of play left in this router. A lot of depth I can still explore. Just about 1/8 of a turn for every pass. Start from the outside, work your way towards the middle. Don't go over the edge. And flip the plane around and go from the outside in. That's the safe way. Keeps all our edges nice and crisp. That's the plan anyway. And if it doesn't work like we intend it to, well, we'll figure something out, I think. Well, it's a Thursday night, and I'm here working on a spice rack. A lovely, lovely little spice rack. I'm sure everybody else is watching Fortnite or something along those lines. Fortnite intrigues me. I'm tempted to play it. I know it's free. But it does seem like a commitment that I may not be willing to undertake just yet. And I'm not much of a multiplayer guy anymore. At least competitively. I play a heck of a lot of Left 4 Dead of late. Well, that's I play that in the cooperative mode rather than the competitive mode. I am self-aware enough to know where I stand, and I am just not... I am not up to par with a lot of those guys. So I would get pwned hard and often. I used to be fairly decent at the FPS stuff. Back when America's Army, the free propaganda game, used to be relevant. I was pretty good at that. Tribes, I was pretty good with Tribes. I think I'm showing my age, though. And that fit a lot nicer. That was perfect. All right. I'm going to take B aside for now, and we're going to go back to A. We are on A or 3A. Let's see. So here's what I'm going to do. First, step 1, hold fast. Keep that in place. Step 2, get my quick clamp, have that ready. Step 3 is knife in the line, square to the knife, clamp down the square. Got it figured out, I think. And then I need A3, And A3 is going to be here. Hold fast is in the way, they're removable. Board B's in the way. And get it to width. Mark. Another pass. Yet another pass. And another pass. Voodoo 420, thanks for the follow. I normally do these on Tuesday and Thursday morning, so this is not my usual time. But, yeah. I think all of that's in the information down below. So if you want to check that out, I've got my other social media things. The Facebooks and the Twitters and the Bliggity blogs and the YouTube, which is now prominently or primarily just archives for Twitch streams. But I do have some videos. You might check them out if you are so interested. Those are a bit more instructive and obviously better detailed because I can't get good camera angles like this. I suppose I could try. What say you, Voodoo? Do you want to see up close of a dado? So I can make that happen, I think. Knife. Alright, gotta get down about a 1/4 inch. Try and make sure that's getting deep enough. Okay, there we go. We'll set the combination square to the depth, and that way we know how far to mark. It's always a catch-22 when you're doing these. You do the depth first, or do you do the vertical lines first? I don't think I post too much on social media, unfortunately. Mostly Instagram. I do, you know, some photos of the wood stuff, and you know, try and keep it relevant to what's going on. All right. I know I had some leather padding here just a second ago. Little piece of leather. Where are you hiding? I drop it on the floor. No one knows. It's a mystery. Fortunately, I have extra. And I got these because I was intending to actually glue the leather here, but that has not yet happened. Last time I did that, so I've actually still got a holdfast down here with leather glued to it. It's I think I used a contact cement, and I figured, you know, it's a holdfast. All the pressure is going to be between the leather and the metal, so it's just going to stay there, right? Wrong. Contact cement was a horrible, horrible idea. Keep forgetting I have this mirror. So I think for the next attempt I'm going to use some epoxy. I think that might give us a bit of a stronger bond. There we go. Just to pop off the corners halfway, then half again. Get in there. Bevel down so it naturally wants to come up instead of down into the wood. And we'll do one last halving of it. Awesome. On this side, halfway. Half it again. Stabilize your hands on whatever surface you can. Keep it from shaking. There we go. Now onto these sides. My shelves are supposed to be about 5/8. That's the thickness I was trying to get them to. So it bewilders me a little bit when the 5/8 chisel doesn't actually fit in the dado. I must have done something wrong. Yeah, I'm not... I picked that up from some woodworking channel. I don't remember the name of it. The guy was cutting dovetails like that, I think. I believe the channel was based out of Brazil, but I for the life of me, I can't remember the name. Most of the time it's not necessary because you just arrange your workpiece so that the outside of the cut is going to be someplace where it's not going to be seen. So like if you're cutting dovetails, I mean, okay, so the outcut is going to be the inside of the drawer, right? So no one's going to see it. You don't need to worry about going over your lines. Something like this, probably a little more important. Although if I was smart, I would turn the workpiece around and cut towards my rabbet, and no one's going to see what's in the rabbet, so problem solved that way. But I think I'm already committed to this orientation, and I don't want to change. I do think I may need to better define these lines here. I don't think I got the saw quite deep enough in the middle. Chisel fixes everything. except for the things that the chisel screws up. Then you need glue and more wood. All right, let's get the router plane in here. This is my first and so far only Lee Nielsen tool. Lee Nielsen, supposedly the premier brand of woodworking tools, or at least the mass-produced ones. Planes, anyway. Let's clarify it for the most. They're known for their planes. And I'm not snobbish at all when it comes to planes. I mean, most of my planes are Stanleys and Records. Well, most of them are Stanleys. I got one Record, one Wood River, and two Wood Rivers, and one of unknown denomination. And I don't necessarily think the Lee Nielsens are worthy of my skill, I should say. Or reverse that. My skills are worthy of the Lee Nielsens. I would have happily taken a Stanley or an old 71, something like that. However, the Stanleys, the used Stanleys, cost just as much as a brand new Lee Nielsen. So yeah, that made it a real simple calculation on my part. And I can feel the blades starting to get dull, which is unfortunate, because in order to sharpen this blade, I have to take off the depth stop. If I take off the depth stop, my dados are not going to be consistent depth. They'll be close, real close. But I cannot guarantee 100% accuracy in the depth of my dados, or accuracy, consistency. It's one of the main reasons why I try to take off as much of the material as possible with the chisel before I even go to the router. Just so I can save that edge. Do that final pass. And I am actually, once I finish this one, halfway done with my dados. There's final depth. Yeah, probably, I've got a 45 plane that I probably could have used to do this, and maybe done both of them at the same time. I don't trust myself with it, is the unfortunate part of that. But I think it might have gone pretty quick. So yeah, just set up a small temporary straight edge. Get in a 5/8 inch blade, set the nippers because it's going across grain, and just plow through it. Set the depth stop. I've seen it done before, but I'm really not confident in my abilities with the combination plane yet. All right, let's move on to the next one. I want to go this way. Marking knife in the line, square to the marking knife, do a couple extra passes. All right, now I had my, can I reach this? Ah. Stay put. I'm not quite done with you yet. And we are on to, that was 3, so we're on 4A, A4. Ghetto superstar, that is what you are. Okay. Yeah, I missed the line a little bit. That's okay. So I went to the inside, and the inside we don't care about. We can cut that up all day long. Oh yeah, I gotta label this. Three A. Now we know which board to put there. Transpose that mark down the side, down this side. So Voodoo, are you a woodworker at all? Or just enjoying the show? Alright, what am I doing next? Okay, I gotta make a place for the sock go. I haven't done carving in quite a while. I used to do it a good amount in my youth as a Boy Scout. You know, carving walking sticks while out at camp and whatnot. It's good times. You do learn quite a bit about grain structure that way, I think. You use like power carvers, Dremels, anything like that? Or are you a hand tool guy? Yeah, spice racks are very important things to have, especially when your wife collects 100 bottles of spices. I'm not bitter. Fortunately, though, she has put them all in conveniently sized and uniform bottles, so every single spice will fit in this rack. What am I doing? Saw. Dovetail saw. There we go. Mirror. I'm not 100% opposed to the use of power tools. I mean, I use them. I've got a table saw right there, off screen, hidden so no one can see it, see my shame, along with the bandsaw and all that. It's just, for the joinery, it's so much more rewarding, I think, for me, just to be able to do it by hand tools. You know, to know that I did that. That it actually took some kind of skill and dexterity to accomplish. Now there's folks who can do amazing stuff that obviously requires a ton of skill with the power tools. But they are, you know, oftentimes they're different skills. One of my favorite woodworkers, Matthias Wandel, is really the one who got me into woodworking, I would say. But yeah, he's so power tool, he makes his own. Anyone who can build a bandsaw deserves some props in my book. If you ever want to see some crazy amount of just homemade engineering, look up a screw advanced box joint jig. That thing is amazing. Canadians can be scary people. Let's get the sides, and we're home free. Just checking my battery life, make sure I'm okay. I'm plugged in, but these devices, they can still drain your power even if they are plugged in sometimes. Had that problem with my last phone, that's why I eventually traded it in. Alright, I can go a bit, well, let's take a peek off first. That way have more room on this side. Bring the angle down just a little bit. It is getting a little bit warm here in the workshop. I don't have really good ventilation in here. And definitely not air conditioning, because it's a garage. Yeah, the power tools create a lot of dust, and dust is just atrocious on your lungs. I mean, though even with power tools, or with hand tools, I still want to get an air filter in here. And I think with stone's going to be like that for you too. So I highly recommend getting some good respiration regardless of what tools you're using. Bone, I know bone is going to do some nasty stuff to you if you don't protect yourself. But I'm not a health or safety expert by any means, but I've heard and read enough about those things to give me pause. Wood dust will mess you up with enough exposure to it. But you know, if you limit your exposure and you're not using like heavy power sanders and whatnot without any kind of dust collection or without any kind of respirator, yeah, you're gonna mess up your lungs. But it's if it's just a kind of an occasional thing, and you're not using like toxic exotic woods like wenge or stuff like that, yeah, I think it's okay. You're probably not going to get black lung from it. But a lot of folks do also tout the health benefits of hand tool work just because it gives you the extra exercise. Planing can be a good workout. Dimensioning wood by hand, that's that could take quite a bit of an effort. These shelves are 5/8. They started out as 15/16. And that all happened with hand planes. Partially because I'm a masochist, and partially because planers and jointers are just too damn expensive. That's my primary motivation for switching to hand tools, is lack of funding. It's like, yeah, I would like, you know, a 12-inch aircraft carrier size jointer, but I also like to eat and pay the rent, you know? So I found me a second-hand shop that specialized in woodworking tools, second-hand woodworking tools. I just started purchasing numbers 4 through 7. And I think that's enough of a collection, I'd say. For now, at least. Actually, Paul Sellers recently did a video on converting the 78, the rabbeting plane, into a scrub plane, which is, you know, a simple enough operation. You take the iron out, you carve you grind it to a radius, you take off the fence, you take off the depth stop, and bam, you've got a scrub plane. A bit simpler than what everybody else normally recommends, which is taking a 5 and grinding that iron, and it's a much wider iron than you've got on the 78 on the rabbeting plane. And, you know, wider iron means more grinding if you're going to put a nice chamfer on it. Nice radius on it anyway. And then you got to open the throat, so that involves moving the frog, which you don't necessarily need to do on the 78. And, you know, sometimes even just opening the throat of it, and that requires filing and ruining the soul of the plane, which I suppose are not strictly necessary. I didn't do that. I wanted to keep mine as versatile as possible. They do call it a jack plane after all. It's supposed to be the jack of all trades. So all I did was take a spare blade that I strangely enough found on a number 6, which if you're not familiar, the number 6 is just ever so slightly bigger than the number 5. And we can see the sole is actually just a little bit wider, and the blade is a little bit wider. So the fact that I found a blade sized for a number 5 on a number 6 means it was the wrong blade in there. But you go to antique shops and people mix and match these things all the time because they have no idea what they're dealing with. They're just selling them to people who think it looks neat and want to put it on a shelf. Which was probably my first mistake, because that plane is nothing but trouble. It does work though, and it worked for what it was good for. or for what I needed at the time. But to be honest, I think most people skip the number 6 in their collections, so it's not strictly necessary. I've got the 5, I've got the 4, I've got the 7. 7's a nice plane. Biggest one I got right now, and it's good for doing really long flattening. I wish I had it when I first surfaced this bench here. I did this mostly with the number 6, but also a number 4. Yeah, well, number 4 is a respectable plane. You can do a lot with a number 4. Are you familiar with the work of Paul Sellers? I mean, he does just about everything with a number 4 plane. That's another wonderful thing about hand tools is you can technically do just about everything with a chisel, but realistically, you get yourself a set of 3 chisels, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. That'll do just fine. Get yourself a tenon saw, or maybe a bow saw, you know. Just something that you can cut tenons, cut dovetails, and you know, you can cut dovetails with these. It's not ideal, but you can do it. Mallet, if you don't got a mallet, use a 2x4. That works too. Not ideal, of course, but you know, they work. And number 4 plane do just about anything. Number 5, they call it a jack plane. There's a reason they call it a jack plane. You can do just about anything with it. I don't like it that much, to be quite honest. I think I'd rather have just another number 4. But yeah, I guess. I think it's just a matter of taste, honestly. All right. Oh yeah, we still need to fit this guy, don't we? What are we on? We are on 4A, right? A4. And we don't fit. Jump the gun. Got too distracted talking about collecting planes. But yeah, I'd say number 4, number 5, something along those lines. Set of chisels and a tenon saw. You can do just about anything with that. Router plane is an extremely useful thing to have too. I don't know how folks get along without router planes. Yeah, Paul's my mentor. I learned just about everything from him, at least most of my technique. It's not the only source I go to. I mean, I watch a lot of other folks. All the free stuff, I don't pay for anything because there's enough information online for free that why would you? I've bought a book or 2 and haven't read them. That help us out? Ooh. That's nice. So we're looking on this side. Perfect. Oh, I'm happy with that. So that's 4A. And now I think it's time to move on to 4B. And I'm just trying to keep the shelves in order. That's why I'm switching back and forth like this. Because I got them stacked up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I just want to keep them in that order. Other woodworkers I'd recommend, James Wright, Wood by Wright. He's got a great channel. All hand tool work. He's hardcore. Yeah, okay. He's got some really interesting stuff. The dad jokes are a little bit annoying, I find, but he does know what he's talking about, I think, for the most part. I think he goes a little bit more on the actual project than he does on the technique. Good hand tool channel. Yeah. I would say Joshua Farnsworth has some good stuff on there. Can't remember the name of his channel. The unfortunate thing is he keeps most of his good content behind a paywall. Actually, one of my biggest inspirations for this bench, aside from, of course, from Paul Sellers, was Stumpy Nubs, if you're familiar with that channel. This is not working. Okay. Let's flip her around. That ought to make things a bit easier, I think. At least for the clamp. You can also find some stuff by Christopher Schwartz. That guy's a hoot to watch. And definitely knows his stuff too. Yeah, as far as YouTube channels, I think one of my very favorites is Matthias Wandel. I believe he's about the most popular woodworking channel on YouTube. I think he's even got Steve Ramsey beat. And even though he is almost entirely power tools, it's just amazing the stuff that guy can do. And we're on 1, 2. Uh-oh, forgot to mark these. This was 2B and 3B, 2B, 3B, and now we're on to 4. Don't like the sound that's making. I feel like I'm scratching and dinging my blade like that. What can you do though? What can you do? What am I doing? Okay, I still need this. I can just get the depth right there. Maybe a little bit further. Knife to the line, square to the knife. This is a spear point marking knife. It's got 2 blades on there, or 2 edges on the blade, and compared to my single edge, single bevel marking knife, This one's tons and tons more useful, but I don't like it as much. It's just, it doesn't feel as good in my hand, I don't think. Might have something to do with the size of it. I don't know. I just don't like it as much. But you can't argue with utility. When I'm marking to the left side of the square, it just doesn't work as well. Right, now deepen those. And before I get too far, I do want to take everything to this drop. Well, I hope it's not affecting your viewing experience too much. And I do suspect it might be partially my fault. I'm experimenting with equipment and everything right now, so this is a very experimental stream. This not my usual time slot, and not my usual phone, not my usual internet connection. I'm actually going off of my my phone connection, so the cellular service. Because when I use the home internet, no one else can use it, so that's annoying. I've only been able to do that so far in the mornings. That's why I got the 11 o'clock Central Time slot on it. Everyone else in the house is asleep, so or away. That gives me free reign of all the internets. But using the cell service, yeah, no one can complain about that, right? Doesn't interfere with anybody else interneting. Which is honestly a damn shame, because one of the main reasons we went with the fiber optic connection is so I could do streaming and still have plenty of bandwidth for everything else. Yeah, there's the 1/2 inch. Yeah, 1/2 inch works just fine there. That's much nicer. No, I've been using this one too, so let's see if I can. Really only use that 1.5 inch chisel for these knife walls. That's my primary application of it. That's why I bought it anyway. I figured I didn't really need a nice chisel for that, so I could just get a, Buck Brothers from the Home Despot. And it definitely does the trick. Did I forget to put my depth lines on there? Oops. That might be important to help me stop cutting. When I was doing my shelves over there, it was really basic, just it's all lap joints really. But so it's 3 uprights and 3 horizontals. And so I've got lap joint here, 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 there. So that's 9 on the side and 2 sides, so 18 total lap joints. And I was using, if you've seen Paul Seller's poor man's chisel, which is you take a board, drill a hole at it at an angle, shove the chisel through it, or what did I say, poor man's router, right? So yeah, shove that in there, hammer it in, and just have your chisel set at a depth, and you use a scrap piece of wood as your fence. Well, that's what I was using at that time, because I didn't have either of my routers at that point. And so 18 of those, so those are 3-inch boards, so cutting a 3-inch wide dado essentially, 18 times through, in some circumstances, extremely knotty pine, and cutting through those knots with a ever dulling chisel that I was reluctant to take out because I had the depth set correctly. And every time I cut one of those, I turned around and I looked, and there was my table saw, and there was my dado stack, and it's like, I could have had this done already, but no. No, I want to do it the hard way. I really do not need that here. Where can I put this? Over there. I was worried that was going to get in my way at some point. So my shop, this is a new shop for me. Been here just a couple of months, so still getting everything set up. New house for me, so the whole house is still getting set up. Hence the need for a spice rack. But I'm really starting to get annoyed by having all my tools in the tool well, and I would like to get everything set up on a French cleat system. And in fact, I've got the lumber for it. I've got some oak. Got about, what was that? 5 3/4-inch boards, 3/4-inch by 6-inch. Width. I'm going to rip those in half out of 45. That'll make my French cleats. And yes, I will be cheating. I'm going to use the table saw on that one. I don't mind doing a little bit of ripping by hand here and there. But when it comes to doing 50 linear feet at a 45-degree angle, that's where I draw the line. Now normally I've got the Twitch app here, and that shows me how long my stream has been running, so I'm not really sure how long I've been on here. I guess it's okay. I'll stop when I get tired. That's alright with everybody else. Alright, let's move to the router plane. Stick those there where they don't hurt me. Now I've got 2 Veritas saws, but no Veritas planes. I don't really like the look of their planes. I've never tried one, but I don't like the look of them. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they do great things, but with their router plane, the angled out knobs on it, the handles, that turned me off. Which is why I picked the Lee Nielsen over the Veritas. And for their bench planes, I don't like their lateral adjustments, how they're built in with the depth adjustment. Now, if you are unfamiliar with such things, so depth adjustment, right here, this knob, advances the blade in and out. Lateral adjustment tilts the blade left and right. The Veritas planes have both on the same knob, so they've got a depth adjustment knob that shifts left and right as the lateral adjustment as well. I think that's asking too much of one control, particularly because as you're adjusting it one way, you might inadvertently adjust it in another way. It's evidently not too horrible. Hour and 38 minutes? Okay. I mean, people do buy those planes, so I guess they can't be too bad. It just, it seemed wrong to me. So that's, I don't think I'm going to go with that way. If I decide to go with the high-end plane, probably going to be Lee Nielsen. But more likely the stuff you can get at Woodcraft, the Wood River planes. Yeah, I do appreciate the follow, Voodoo. It's good to have you on here. Nice to have someone to talk to. It's a bit of a rarity for me, unfortunately, but I am fairly new to this streaming stuff. Maybe I'll get, I'm growing in followers. I just need to figure out how to grow in followers who talk to me. The streaming is so much more fun when you got someone to talk to. But yeah, I think I like the Wood River planes perfectly fine for their bench planes. So it's about the nicest I think I'm going to go with. But yeah, I do fine with the Stanleys, the old Stanleys. And there's still enough of them, I think. You can get them fairly easily. They're not running out anytime soon. They made them right. They didn't make them perfect. They didn't make them as good as the Lee Nielsens. But they made them good, and they made them to last. Okay, what am I looking for? I need to sever some fibers here. So I got little fuzzies. I mean, most of my tools are older than I am. Got a saw here. It's used to be my grandfather's, and this is about 100 years old. Yeah, you're talking about the number 4. That one was a Wood River. It's one of the 2 I own. I have another number 4. This one is an unknown brand. At least I haven't seen any markings on it other than made in USA. But the lateral adjustment, if I can show you here, most of the ones you're going to see are going to have like a ball bearing here for the lateral adjustment. And okay, my video just stopped. Did it stop for anybody else or just me? That's a little disconcerting. I hope it's just me. But the lateral adjustment here is normally on most planes you're going to find is a ball bearing, whereas this one is just a tab that's kind of bent up, and it's not secure. It can kind of well, it can lose track of the blade, and that's not good for the plane, and it certainly doesn't adjust it when it does that. Yeah, this is not looking good because my screen has not been moving for quite a while. Let's see. Get the Twitch app out. Hopefully I get some kind of response to that. Well, my chat's coming up, so that's a good sign. But we'll go ahead and continue work, because that's what we're really here for. Entertaining folks is nice, but what I really need to do is get this spice rack done. Well, you know what? I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to try and restarting this stream to see if that helps at all. Be back soon.